Hello, my name is Mary Purk, and I'm excited to welcome you all to Day 3 of the WIDS Philadelphia and Penn Conference. This is what a data scientist looks like. I'm proud to co-chair this conference with Penn professors Susan Davidson from Penn Engineering and Linda Zhao from the Wharton Statistics Department. As I mentioned earlier this week, WIDS at Penn is in its second year and is an independent event presented by the University of Pennsylvania to coincide with the annual Global WIDS Conference held at Stanford University and has an estimated 150 organizations worldwide participating. We've seen exceptional engagement throughout this conference so far. I want to give a special shout out to the National Commercial Bank, Jamaica Limited, and Fulton Bank, the WCA corporate partner. We have the highest number of attendees at the conference. Thank you all for your attendance and for your engagement this week. We're halfway through our virtual conference, and it's been so inspiring to hear from our outstanding roster of speakers, and today will be no exception. Before I introduce our panelists for today, I have a few housekeeping items. Any questions you have for our speakers should be submitted through the event chat function. You can adjust your screen layout using the slider below my video. Today's presentation will be available once you complete a short survey at the end of the session. Video recordings will also be available in the viewing room on gather.town later this week. Speaking of which, if you haven't yet had the opportunity, I highly encourage you to check out gather.town. In this space, there are opportunities for networking and sponsor engagement. It's a lot of fun. This is an example of what it looks like when you join and you move your icons, your avatars through the different rooms. So many great companies have come together to share information about their initiatives with you all. Check out these tables from the companies like ZS, Bardis Group, American Women in Tech, and many more. All access information has been sent to you this morning in your daily WIDS welcome email. If you have any questions about access, please reach out to Maddie Lasser. Her email address is listed in your welcome email. It is really quite enjoyable to meet people through this virtual platform. Networking takes place in gather.town for 30 minutes after this live session. We look forward to seeing you there. I look forward to meeting you there. Today, we will hear from 3 industry professionals in the data science field who will be sharing their professional journeys and career advice for future data scientists, and will be followed by a live Q&A during the second half of this broadcast. Our 3 panelists are Barca Saxena, the Chief Data Officer at Poshmark, Christine Cox, Vice President of Data and Analytics at IKEA Digital, and Didi Hung, Director of Data Science of Business Opportunities at Facebook. Today's panel is sponsored by Wharton Women in Business, a student-led organization that represents over 650 female students and partners in the Wharton MBA program. Their mission is to further develop the voices of all Wharton women as confident female leaders within their organization, Wharton, and most importantly, within the world. Today's industry panel has been featured in the organization's Wharton Women in Business Week. Throughout the week, the organization will bring issues to the forefront that are critical to all of us and our broader life. Wharton Women in Business is thrilled to co-sponsor the WIDS industry panel today as one of their weekly events to hear from inspiring, successful women who have blazed their own paths in data science. Wharton Women in Business is also hosting their 22nd annual Wharton Women's Summit this Friday, February 12th. The theme of their conference is The Power in Our Past. This virtual event is an opportunity to bring together inspiring female leaders with future leaders to honor their experiences and accomplishments. Please check that out as well. And now sit back, relax, and enjoy our panel. Welcome to today's programming for WIDS, Women in Data Science at the University of Pennsylvania 2021. In our upcoming session, we have 3 esteemed data and analytics leaders who will provide a window into their data science journeys and advise us in how to navigate a successful career in data science, analytics, and digital transformations. Our first guest is Barka Sexna, who has over 15 years of experience leading large teams to build and sell analytics and machine learning products across multiple industries. Currently, Barka is the Chief Data Officer at Poshmark, a leading social marketplace for the next generation of retailers and shoppers. At Poshmark, Barka has built the data team from the ground up and leads all analytics, data science, data tools, and machine learning initiatives across the business. Before joining Poshmark, Barka led the development of pricing optimization solutions as the VP of Analytics Product at Nomus Solutions and machine learning-based digital media buying products as the VP of Advanced Analytics at Comscore. Barka is a thought leader and speaker and often contributes to topics on big data, retail, and women in leadership. Barka holds a master's in statistics from UCSB and the India Institute of Technology, and most importantly, an MBA from Wharton. Please welcome Barka Sexna.
Thank you, Mary, for that introduction. When you look at my career journey, it seems so logical that sometimes even I forget that how from time to time I have taken some very well thought out, but you would call them some risky bets. So I started my career in 1999 and my first job was a software engineer. That was the period of the dot-com boom and software engineering was one of the best professions. But within a few months of starting that job, it became very clear to me that what really spoke to me was the data. I was a statistics major and I had really enjoyed studying that subject. So I quit the job and moved to US because that data wasn't such a big deal at that time. And there were not too many jobs in India, for sure, in the field of data. And if you think of like me quitting that very well paid and respectful job in the middle of the dot-com, I'm sure there were people who didn't probably call that the smartest decision. But here I was. I moved to US and this is where I started my career journey in the data science field at FICO. And it was a wonderful experience. And I stayed there for 10 years. But in 5 years at FICO, I actually made a lateral move to move into the sales role. And that was, again, a bet I made. As a data scientist, I had done 5 years of the development and the delivery of the data science products. But I wanted to develop that sales skill because I was very clear that as a data science leader, my job is always going to be to convincing people about the value of the data solutions. And there is no other team to build that muscle than the sales team. So here I was. I made a lateral move at FICO and spent my next 3 years in the sales role. And in my last 2 years at FICO, I spent time working in corporate strategy because what I was looking to do was connecting the data and how it creates the value for the organization and how it should, the corporate strategy for a data company, which is what FICO was, should look at the data and how these pieces fit together. And the skills and the learning I gained during that period, I would say that has been instrumental in all the things I have done since then. After FICO, when I went to Comscore in a data science, business development, and product development role, that thinking from the sales perspective as well as the strategy was instrumental in trying to build out a new products for the advertising industry. And when I look at my Poshmark journey in last 7 years, having always that perspective of that how the data drives the company success and the company strategy, it has been crucial. Like all these learning I have had through different sometimes not the straightforward changes I made in my career, all of it has come together really well for me to be able to do what I do today. And in terms of my 3 advice for you all, The very first one will be speak up. We as a women are generally not very good at it. And this is my first advice, that always speak up your mind and ask for what you want, whether it's a new role or a salary increase or the team you want to work in or some new challenge you are looking for. And that new challenge, definitely go for it. Don't hesitate. The second advice will be build relationships and always find mentors. When you are looking for that next job, always think about the team you will be working with, who will be your mentor, because that person is going to be your champion in making sure you get the strategic opportunities and the right career directions. Because remember, at the end, it's the people who make an impact on your career and not the companies. And the last one, very important, be authentic, be yourself, because that's the only way you will be able to stay on to doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Barka, for those interesting career insights. Speak up and stand up, building relationships with mentors, and being authentic. Next, I'd like to introduce our second panelist, Christine Cox. Christine is a digital data and analytics leader who, for over 20 years, has gained experience with IKEA, Ricoh, Comcast, and American Express to develop and execute digital transformation strategies to drive business growth. Currently, at IKEA, Christine leads the digital data and analytics team in the newly launched U.S. Digital Hub, which is enabling the U.S. digital team to shift from a descriptive to a predictive insights-driven culture. Prior to IKEA, Christine formed the digital analytics and transformation team at Ricoh USA, a solution provider that offers workplace solutions and digital transformation services. Christine and her team optimized Ricoh's supply chain performance and improved the velocity and value of online leads through a propensity model and advanced analytics. Christine received her BA from Fairfield University and her MBA from Wharton.
Thank you, Mary, for that introduction. And I'm so excited to be here and be part of the panelists. And wanted to start by talking about my journey, my career journey, which is probably different than others in the data science and data analytics field. Essentially, my journey has been more like a winding path than a ladder. I think we all expect our careers to be climbing up that corporate ladder, or at least that's the constant image that we have in our heads. Well, I can look back now and confidently say that it's definitely been a journey and a winding path that's not always been directly up or directly forward. There's been moments of sort of winding around and trying different things as I move up and forward and grow in my career. I started my professional career coming out of undergrad with a major in English, and I had a lot of people ask me, well, what are you going to do with an English major? Going on to law school? Are you going to be a writer, a journalist? What are your plans? And because I didn't know what I wanted to do, I did what a lot of people do. I went into consulting. And I started my career in Accenture consulting. And actually, my first job with Accenture was coding, and I was trained how to code in C++. At the time, I sat with a team of 400, and we were coding on a mainframe, the first ever order shipping tracking package system. So basically for UPS, we were creating the first automated way to track where your package was at. So it was a great way to start that career and really get introduced to technology. From there, I moved along that path and getting deeper into technology. I knew I wanted to supplement my undergrad degree with an MBA. That was definitely something that was in the focus. So I made sure to accomplish that early on in my career by attending Wharton and completing my MBA. I came out of Wharton and I continued down that track in financial services, where I spent some time at Goldman Sachs and then spent a lot of time at American Express. And at American Express is where I really became introduced to customer data and consumer behavior. And I fell in love with learning about consumers, how they spend their money, how they travel, what they like to do, and more importantly, how we could predict what their next move would be so we could engage them deeper within our product set. American Express and credit card data is amazing because there's so much of it, and when you start to connect it, you can really learn a lot about the consumer. So I had so much fun in my time there, spending a lot of the beginning part of my journey at American Express in traditional marketing roles. I ran the direct marketing team. I moved from there into digital, which is where I then became reintroduced to technology and to data and analytics, but from a digital perspective. And that's where I really fell in love with the ability to see all of those different data points and the digital experience within a nanosecond, basically, of when the customer was engaging with you. So I really became passionate about that consumer behavior, creating a better consumer experience, and being able to predict and make decisions based on data. And then I moved on to IKEA, where I am today, and I'm the country manager of digital data and analytics within the U.S. Digital Hub. In this role, my team is using data science and data analytics to really build an end-to-end platform that we use to make database decisions for everything that we're doing and building out a better IKEA.com experience for our customers. In terms of career advice, so we were asked to share what our 3 pieces of advice would be, and this is a tough one. Like many on the participating in the conference, we've read, we've watched, we've attended conferences where people give career advice. And I have to say that a lot of the advice I've been given really is very, very much the advice I would give back to others because I felt it firsthand. The first piece of advice I want to share is it's a marathon and not a sprint. And being consistent and persistent throughout your career is key to success. The next piece of advice I would give is take career risks. Take as many risks as you can when you feel you're ready to take them, but don't wait too long to take them. In general, women tend to be less confident than men in the workforce. We know this, we've read about it, we've heard about it, but it's very true. Look at pay wages. Women have on average a lower pay wage than men in the same or equal role. This is a result of confidence. If you read about it, it really is a showing of women's confidence, their courage to ask for more, their courage to ask for a higher paying, more compensation based on what they're doing, and also their courage to raise their hand and ask for that job, ask for that new role. So take a risk, stretch yourself, try something new. It's when you stretch yourself that you really grow the most. I stretched myself in my career when I had spent about 15 plus years within organizations in an operations organization, and I decided that I wanted to try consulting. So 15 years into my career, I decided I wanted to try something totally different and go down a consulting path. I joined Profit Consulting as a partner, and I was now suddenly thrown into a role where I was expected to bring in new clients. I was expected to build a database product offering, and I was expected to travel a lot, which I had never done. This really pushed me both professionally in terms of business development, creating consulting pitch decks and product offerings, and then also physically, just something as simple as I needed a comfortable pair of shoes that could take me from the Amtrak train walking through New York City to a client meeting or take me from an airport to a client meeting. So it was really a time that I took risk, I tried something very new, and I grew tremendously in that 2-year period of my career. I did end up going back into an operations role because I missed being in-house and building something, but it was a great opportunity and it stretched me professionally and personally. And the final piece of advice I have is always be networking. So think about how you're being thoughtful and proactive in networking rather than just networking in fits and starts. And what I mean by that is think about both inside and outside the office, how you're doing things like scheduling regular coffees at work, both with people in your organization as well as outside your organization. When you're having those coffees, have a plan of attack and agenda, something to talk about or focus in on. Do you have help that you need from that person? Are you asking them to introduce you to someone? Are you asking them about their role and what they appreciate about their job? And are you doing some informational or exploratory? But have an agenda and be clear and concise during those coffees. Secondly, think about how you create networking outside of your work. There's one example I've heard others give advice on that I've done myself is creating these small network groups that are outside of the office. I've created one here in the Philadelphia market with other working moms that I've met just at school drop-off, pick-off, school events. I've noticed that they too are working and going through similar things that I am. And so we've created this network that meets once a month to share learnings, to see what we're doing, understand how careers are going. We've also started to think about how we can tap into each other's skills and expertise to potentially even create an investment group. So it's taking that network and going a little bit beyond what we do, but it's really helped. And this network has led to other introductions for companies that I've been very grateful for. And then finally, hang out in a Starbucks. Starbucks seems to be the place where people are networking. When I was networking with others, especially when I was looking at moving into consulting, I often had informational interviews or meetups, and I would always meet up at the Starbucks. When I was waiting for my friend or my coffee mate to show up, it was amazing to me how many people around me were all networking and talking and kind of using that Starbucks and that atmosphere and that as a place to meet up and network. So Starbucks is definitely a networking place. So if nothing else, just go hang out in a Starbucks during the week. Typically 10 a.m. is a really popular time for networking, and you might see someone you know or reintroduce or reconnect with someone you haven't seen in a long time. Anyway, in sum, my 3 pieces of advice are: your career is a marathon, not a sprint. Be sure to take career risks along the way and always be networking to make sure you've got a group of people that can support you and help you, and that you can also help and support and bring along the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine, for sharing the key aspects of your career journey and your advice of consistency, persistency, lifetime learning, and careers in data analytics that are far more creative than anticipated. I'm delighted to introduce our third guest, Didi Han. Didi is the Director of Marketing Decision Science at Facebook. At Facebook, Didi leads the decision science and quantitative research teams within the Global Consumer Marketing Group to help the company direct positive consumer sentiment and engagement across its platforms and services. Didi is responsible for bringing insights-driven analytics and scientifically backed measurement solutions to all of Facebook's global consumer marketing teams. Prior to Facebook, Didi spent 13 years at eBay, where she built and grew numerous analytic teams for all facets of the company, including pricing, product management, marketplace trust and risk management, shipping and delivery, account management, brand and product marketing. She holds a BS in electrical and electronic engineering from the University of Melbourne and an MBA in finance and strategic management from none other than the Wharton School. Please help me welcome Didi.
Thank you, Mary, for the intro. I'm really excited to be here. Today, I'm going to share my career story of how I became a data scientist, and then end with a few pieces of advice that you may find useful. First and foremost, I did not start my career as a data scientist or an analyst. In fact, when I graduated from college in the mid-1990s, data science did not even exist as a career, and the internet was still in its infancy. So I'm going to share my career story of how I worked my way from engineering into reinsurance, then management consulting, and data analytics, where I picked up the knowledge, mindset, and skills needed to excel in data science. In 1995, I graduated from the University of Melbourne, Australia, with a bachelor degree in electrical and electronics engineering. My final thesis was neural network optimization with computer science as my favorite subject. Upon graduation, I realized that working as an engineer was not the only option for me. So I expanded my search to include other industries and non-traditional career paths. That was how I ended up working in the reinsurance industry as an engineering risk underwriter in Switzerland. In that role, I analyzed risk for engineering companies or projects. I determined policy terms and calculated premiums on the basis of actuarial, statistical, and background information. There, I ventured into the world of finance, where alternate ways of exploring risks were explored. Now, I found myself inadequate to contribute without the knowledge of finance and how the financial market works. It was for that reason that I decided to go back to graduate school, and I got my MBA at Wharton, majoring in finance. Looking back, that period was one of the most extraordinary experiences of my life. It was eye-opening mind-blowing, educational, fun, challenging, overwhelming, and stressful all at the same time. I had a great and diverse cohort of classmates from all over the world and many world-class professors who challenged my thinking all the time. I wouldn't trade it for the world. From there, my career really took an important turn as I went into business consulting. Everything I did from then on became about solving business problems using data, insights, and storytelling. While working at Bain & Company, I learned how to comfortably land a point of view when operating with ambiguity and that data visualization matters a lot. After consulting, I spent about 13 years at eBay, where I built and grew numerous analytics teams for many facets of the company. There, I picked up coding again and grew my skill from handling data in the order of gigabytes to terabytes and then to petabytes. I tried my best to keep up my technical skills, but there came a time in my career when I realized that the pace of change in coding language outran my ability to learn and write code effectively when managing teams had become my primary responsibility, at which point I started to invest more and more time coaching and enabling others by applying what I knew. While the general manager leadership skills have become more important over time, my years of hands-on experience in the field of data and science have helped me appreciate the role of data scientists and what's required to be successful. It helped me identify, hire, retain, motivate, and develop top talents. Now at Facebook, I lead a team of global data scientists to drive product strategy and product roadmap through data science and experimentations. It's a constant collaboration, aligning perspective, storytelling, methodology discussions, and prioritizing decisions across businesses' goals and customer needs. My job is to hold all the cross-functional teams, including data science, accountable for excellent execution and constantly push to make every team better. If I were to sum up my career story, I would say I ended up growing a career in data science because of my passion in solving business problems using data and science. With passion, everything follows and comes easier. Over time, I've also developed a deeper interest and domain expertise in the areas of commerce and marketing. So find something you love doing and integrate that with something you care about. Another piece of important career advice I give to women is always raise your hand to take on new challenges, even if you don't think you are quite ready. Growth comes from stretching yourself, not from doing what you are already comfortable doing. Last, I will end my career story with the following piece of advice that I often share with people I mentor. Building your career is like building your brand that can stand the test of time. It is not about the big moments like getting a promotion, receiving an award, or getting a bigger team through reorg, but how people experience you every day. Therefore, if you consistently help others be better at what they do, you'll earn a seat at the table. These people can be your peers, business partners, stakeholders, managers, or subordinates. You will get a lot of career sponsors who will want you to join them in their next big endeavor. That's how you will have the opportunities to take on bigger and harder problems, along with achieving success in your career. Thank you.
We'd like to thank Dee Dee for her clear and concise advice for future data scientists and their career journeys. And I'd like to thank both Christine and Barca as well. All three of our panelists shared excellent experiences and keys to a successful journey in data science. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone. We are now in our live Q&A session. I want to thank you all. Did such a great job in sharing your career advice and your journeys. So at this point in time, and I would like to ask you a few questions, and then we'll go to our audience for some of the questions that have been coming up in the chat box. Barka, I'll start with you if that's all right. You spoke about building relationships, such as choosing mentors as champions. So how did you, in the beginning of your career, and still now, identify those people? And can you possibly share 2 to 3 characteristics you look for, not only in the person, but potentially in the relationship, and especially in a very male-dominated field of data science and analytics?
Yeah, great question. So, as I reflect on it, I realized that in early on my career, I didn't look for mentors intentionally because I didn't know. I mean, what do you know? You are out of the college and you are doing a job, and it's like after a few years when these mentors had actually come along, I would say I got fortunate. I realized that the impact they had made in career. And whenever I look back in my career, I can identify the moments where the people made a difference. And that's why I would say I would say a few years in career, like the 6, 7, 8 years is when it started to dawn on me that the impact that people have. When I translate that into, and after that, of course, I became intentional in looking for the mentors wherever I'm in the journey. And those mentors can sometimes be your peers, they can be your seniors. They come in like all in different. They are basically a diverse set of people. But what is common across all the people when I think about it, the first and foremost is I need to be able to connect with that person and trust the person to be super honest. I should be able to share my weaknesses, my fears, and what is it I'm trying to do and what's stopping me from getting there, because they are the one who really get you over the hump and get you to take that next challenge. Second is, which kind of goes with that, is very high EQ and IQ. Like you need to be able to have a very enriching conversation with this person. And my relationship with mentor has been such that I actually talk with them professional life as well as the personal life. And because I do consider we are one person, we can't have 2 personas. And so really need to be able to, and I really do gravitate towards people who have both high EQ and IQ. And I'm really emphasizing EQ because I think that is so critical. And the last, I would say, I do like want that person to be, again, I have mentors in like different parts. In the professional life, I would say that person needs to be of influence in some ways. And influence doesn't come just because of the title. Like there are many other ways that people have the influence. And that's mainly because I am looking for advice on the next thing I'm trying to do. And that person needs to be able to help me make some connections and point me to some different resources. And that influence can come from the knowledge. That influence can come from the industry or the career track that person might be. But it's something where they know more than I do so that I can learn from them. And this is one place I would say, like I look at even my Wharton network. And again, there are some heavy mentors where you are talking to them very often, but there are mentorship come, even today, Didi and Christine, as I was like, I listened to your talks, I was picking pieces from there, which can be such a great learning and the thought-provoking things for me. And I would say that that's another slice of the mentor, that just hearing from people who bring different perspectives and make you feel that, that's a very good point. I should think about it.
Well said. Once again, great advice and pointers for all of us to take on, especially this topic of authenticity that you were talking about with the mentors and IQ, EQ, and influence. Christine, I was wondering if, as we build on mentors or champions per se for us, that's a little bit different than networking. And I was wondering if you could maybe talk about how you might recommend networking within large organizations and given some of the experiences that you have.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. And
in sort of the recording, I talked about networking at a Starbucks. So it's a great question to chime in on. So within a company, I think there's really, as I reflect on how I've tapped into networking, especially within data, I think there's three big areas to think about. One is conferences like this. So this is a great opportunity to network with people that you're looking to learn more about, learn from. Like Marcus said, even just panelists here, I've learned a lot over the last 20 minutes. And being part of the conference over the last few days, it's a great opportunity. So I would definitely say conferences has been a great way to network. And what I love is even in COVID, we found a way to continue these events. So thank you for pulling this off. So I would say absolutely the obvious first one is a conference like this. Look for more events like this and tap into them. So super excited to highlight that. Number two is, like you said, being in the big companies I've been at, American Express, Comcast, IKEA, and then also Ricoh, I've had the opportunity to network within those companies. These are huge organizations, global organizations that have different functional areas and capabilities. At American Express, I was working in the marketing department, and I was able to meet all of the data scientists that were a lot of them sitting in the risk department. And that's really where I started to grow an interest in that area. And so I've stayed very close to a lot of those colleagues within the corporation, and then also thinking about how do you network outside of the corporation. So I had the opportunity over my career to work with some amazing consulting firms, Bain being one of them, as Dee Dee mentioned earlier. And they've been able to introduce me to some of their clients that are in similar fields so that we could share learnings. Excuse me, one of my favorite memories is when I was at Comcast and we were building out a testing center of excellence. And we were trying to understand and share learnings across organizations. And my consulting partner created a forum where they brought in non-competitive brands that we could work and talk to and learn from. So we could share some really interesting learning how other big brands that were not in the competitive space were using test and learn to really advance and move forward. So I would say other companies, look within your own company as well as look at your consulting partners and your colleagues that you're working with and ask them to introduce you. And then the third area that I've really found beneficial is creating a culture of innovation and incubation really helps to start to think about how you can step out and think a few steps ahead and network it with people who are maybe a little bit ahead of the curve. And so an example here is at Comcast and IKEA in particular, we are definitely creating these cultures of using data science as an incubator to help us identify sort of, as I said, predictive. You talked earlier about going from like descriptive to predictive. So we're really trying to move from describing to starting to predict and prescribe. And in a culture of incubation and innovation, we're always looking for new voices and new people to share learnings with and partner with to push us forward. And so one of the things we're actively doing is thinking about new partnerships that we can tap into, new tools, technology capabilities. And as we talk to those partners, I definitely am seeking out people I can network with to learn more from and do some one-on-ones with, or smaller group forums. So a lot there, but really conferences are a great way to meet work within the data science. Your own company, if you're in a large company, or other like companies or non-competitor companies, think about the consulting firms you're working with and then the partners that you're working with. And then also thinking about how you can create this culture of innovation and incubation and seek out new relationships to help drive that that culture. And so through those relationships, you'll naturally start to network and expand beyond your small circle.
Okay, thank you. So it's interesting how we've kind of gone, from this mentorship to the networking that's just not only within a large organization, but even within the sub-departments of an organization. I really appreciate you bringing forth. I love these I call them like new taglines, like you talked about new voices, which related to new technology, but there's this listening that I'm hearing that's coming through, listening, taking risks. And this really comes to a question for you, Dee Dee. What personal character traits do you constantly monitor or challenge about yourself that enables you to continue to learn about the latest research, state-of-the-art technologies, but also what's influencing your management style. I mean, we talked about the mentors. It's a very close relationship than a larger part networking. But I would like you to maybe focus a little bit, focus then internally, like what should we be doing to continue to advance our careers and be very mindful of?
Thank you, Mary. It's a very great question, but also at the same time quite deep.
Yes. I love the best. Yes. I love that for you.
Yes. So I would start to say that I've never really thought about keeping up with, like latest research and state-of-the-art technology as a personal goal. It doesn't really come like that. Instead, my goal has always been about having a positive impact in business. And therefore, my learning of all the latest technologies as well as research is always the means to reach that end. So, for example, when I started as an analyst at eBay in 2003, I picked up, like coding again, SQL to retrieve and organize data because eBay was using the relational database management system at that time. And instead of relying on a lot of the tools like Business Objects or Tableau to do my work, I found that if I can play with the data directly, I could get to the answers so much quicker. And so when big data started to become a thing between 2005 and 2010, I had to relearn how to be effective in retrieving, cleaning, and structuring data from unstructured data. It's just part of the work that I have to do. And then, but it is also the me forcing myself to relearn consciously because I already manage a team. I can just get people to do the work. There are trade-offs that I really do have to make. If I don't pick up some of this knowledge, I may not be able to manage the team effectively. And while I need to reduce repeatable tasks, I pick up Visual Basic and Python to streamline. While I was also building a team, I had to do some hands-on work to keep the work going, so I learned R at the same time. Now, as a team lead, I hire many people who are also smarter than me and thought leaders in their specific areas. This gives me a lot of opportunities to learn from them. For instance, when I needed to understand how to improve brand perception, I brought in demographic and survey science experts to help. I learned a lot about the latest quantitative research approaches as a result. And in addition, I partner with top academic talents also to discuss and conduct research to help us solve hard problems. Lastly, like Christine alluded to earlier, networking matters. I leverage my network of analytics connections for ideas and keeping up with trends. For example, one of the times, we reach out as a leadership team to VCs firms and have them organize a group of startups who are in the measurement fields to come in and present all the tools that they are creating, like in the world of innovation. So it has been very eye-opening. So in summary, I rely on the two personal traits to continuously learn, desire to make an impact, and a growth mindset. And that's really, really important. You have to keep yourself open to new learning all the time.
Thank you. And as you so eloquently stated, all of you touched upon this, is you have to have passion in guiding you through much of this. And like you said, listening to those voices, those new voices, the new technologies, you were able to absorb a lot of that from your teams. I think right now, before we go to, there's lots of questions that have been coming up through the chat box. I did want to give you all just one last time to potentially just mention what you think are 3 characteristics of a data scientist, as that's our theme for our conference this week, and we know that it's a very diverse field. So I'm going to allow you each to maybe mention 2 or 3 characteristics that you think define a data scientist, a data insight individual, or analyst in that regard.
I can go ahead. Passionate. That comes to mind. Yes. Passionate.
Okay, great.
I can go next. I will pick 3. Technically savvy, business focused, and excellent communication skills, because the job of the data scientist is to hear the right problem and solve the right problem. And then sell it to the people that this is the solution which would create the value.
Very good. Christine?
And I'll add into that. So I think curious, so a huge curiosity, and then being creative. So being able to creatively think about how to use very structured or unstructured data to help answer some of the curious questions that you have and the business has.
So stating all those different characteristics, one of the questions that has come through is, what are some of the most exciting opportunities in data science and potentially some of the challenges that you all are seeing in terms of, one, roles that you might need to be filling in the future, and maybe is there a void in those roles? So as people are investing in their careers, what should they be seeking to maybe add to their skill set or seeking roles?
I can go first. It's a challenge of the everyday. As I mentioned in what does a data scientist look like for me? So we often come across people who look at the data science as a very heavy technical field and invest a lot of time in learning all the technical know-hows of it. But then they struggle in connecting it, because data science for me, it's just a tool to solve a business problem. And investing that time to understand what problem we are trying to solve, and then just picking the right tool to do that is very important, as opposed to focusing on these are the great technical skills I have and what can I do with it. So it's just turning it around on how you are looking at it. So I think, which is why I love Wharton initiatives, because it's trying to bridge that gap of the technical skills and the business mindedness.
Mm-hmm. Another aspect, another question that's really come up here that I would like to offer to you all is, what are your thoughts regarding changing from working in person versus remote? And do you think these will continue across your different organizations, and specifically within the data science area too?
I can take that. At Facebook, we definitely has started to move toward more remote working, especially for data science roles that are a little bit less to do with interacting with people. Per Barker, there are actually two spectrum of data science when you think about the work. On the very one end, you have, people who actually do have to do machine learning and interact with the machine quite often. But on the other spectrum, it's almost like you are driving decisions with humans, and the communication skills and storytelling, influencing, working with people is really, really important. But at the same time, you still need to be technical enough to be able to coordinate and cooperate and work with people in the technical field. And you yourself also have to deal with data. So those are the two spectrum. And with the machine learning spectrum, actually is a lot easier to go and work remotely. I think for all of us who wants to think about remote working, we have to ask ourselves, is remote working going to help us be more effective? Or at least not less effective? If the answer is yes, I think we would definitely, try to pursue that. But otherwise, if your work requires you to constantly show up and influence people, and if you are the only person on the screen, unlike COVID situation where all of us here are in, on Zooms and everything else is created equal, but just imagine I'm the only one on screen and all of you are live on stage. It's going to be quite different, to show up consistently all the time like that. And so it's something to think about. But Facebook definitely is moving toward that flexible model. We are thinking very closely and very diligently in terms of what roles will require constant human interaction, and therefore you do need to be in the office, and what role that we actually are okay with remote working, because most of the time you are going to be deep down thinking about your problems in front of a computer.
Very good. So you're evaluating that right now, and as are a lot of these other companies, to know what is going to be best for both the employees, the innovation, and then the customers of the organization to deliver the best value. Christine or Barca, do you want to comment on that at all? If not, I can move on to another question, but I do want to give you both the opportunity as well.
Yeah, I would just add like very similar thoughts as Didi mentioned. The one other thing which has come in discussion as we are trying to figure this out, when people start to move remote, Poshmark is a much smaller company, right? I mean, we are 600 people, and the team and being together has been a big part of the identity, and it's a happy place. Everybody loves to come. And what does it mean in building the team and keeping those human connections? It's like it has to be thought through and make sure that that doesn't go away. I personally cherish this a lot, but we will figure it out. I think we have few more months, it seems, to figure all this out. That's how we're going to make it work.
Very good. Christine, did you want to say anything? Or you
totally agree with both. And I'm in a digital hub, so the ability for us to maintain digital and kind of leverage digital, we're evaluating just like we both said, but again, it's based on the role and the need of the role.
Well, stay tuned, everyone, right?
Yeah.
Here's a question that has been very popular on chat. How do you navigate the challenge of wanting to shift one's career from one industry to another? And is it about marketing your existing skills, upskilling within or beyond your existing role? I've talked about networking, but that was also mentioned in the question. So I think this is a really good question because data science is across many different industries. And so, and you've all had some experience with that. So I don't know if there's some advice you can give our audience about navigation around within your career and across different industries.
Yeah, I can start with that. So in my career, as I talked about in the video, it's been sort of this journey kind of going across. So I've had the opportunity to work across financial services, telecommunications, the printer copier industry in B2B, and now most recently very different industries. And there's the thread that's gone through those is digital data and analytics. And so for the last 10 plus years, I've been able to thread different industries by bringing to the table experience and expertise in digital specifically. So I always think about when you switch roles, positions, you always want to think about a comfort level of coming to the table with 50 or 60% experience, and then 40 or 50% stretching yourself, as we talked about in terms of taking risks, trying new things. And so if the industry is brand new, do you bring solid experience in data science? I was bringing digital experience from previous industries to a new industry. So I think you can make that stretch, but make sure that you're not having 95% of what you're doing brand new, including the industry. So being able to find a new industry but bring existing skills is really a great way to kind of make those leaps. The one industry I would say, as I kind of think about industries, as I looked across different industries, there are some industries that have a higher level of compliance and regulation than others, and some industries that just expect you to have 20 plus years of industry expertise. So sometimes it's a little bit trickier to navigate, but that's really where your network and your ability to sort of get in and start doing some informationals and exploratories and tapping into that network can help you overcome sort of this, well, you don't have 20 years of experience in this industry, therefore we're not even going to talk to you. So there are ways to overcome that. You have to work a little bit harder maybe of finding some people that are currently in that industry to kind of get you in there. But I don't think it should be a barrier to entry at all, especially if there's a passion there.
And to your point, that's why really working on your network all the time, because depending on if you want to switch industries where you would need your network to really help pull you cannot just build that network overnight. Didi or Barca, any other comments that you'd like to mention on this topic?
Yeah, I would just mention, I 100% agree, everything Christine you mentioned. And I have also gone from the financial services to advertising industry to the social commerce now. And exactly as Christine mentioned, you capitalize on your skill set which you have, because especially in the data science, that the core set of the skills which you carry are not that different.
It's the industry knowledge and what matters, and the understanding the ecosystem is different. And it takes a little bit of time for you to learn. There are so many ways to just learn it. You can learn it. The biggest point is just be confident about positioning yourself. I think generally what happens is sometimes people don't feel confident and they think we question our capabilities. And I can guarantee everyone here, you are better than what you think you are. So just go with the confidence. If you really want something, you're going to be just fine doing that.
What great words of wisdom. Dee, I'm going to ask you to also contribute, but add this little caveat to the question that just came in. Could you discuss the importance of pursuing an MBA or Master's in Data Science to further the career? And do you feel this was necessary for promotion and career growth? And that, so Dee, if you could maybe respond to that.
I don't think it's a necessary for promotions and career growth. However, depending on what you need to do your job, as I said, depending on what you're solving for, where you're heading, they could really be of a great help. And I think that sums it all. I mean, I shared my experience where I really lacked the financial skills, and that's why I went back to school. So that is something that you have to think about. If you are not able to understand what people are talking about in the boardroom, therefore you really want to elevate yourself to understand what the executive world looks like and what all the different type of business problems, then go for an MBA. If you really lack some technical science skills to do your job, and that's where you're heading, then get those courses, spend the time to learn them. So solve the problems, find the right tools. They are just the means to that business impact that you're looking for.
Very good. We have time for one more question, I believe, but we might have time for two. But I did want to get this question so that each of you could respond to it. How have your companies approached diversity, equality, and inclusion goals? And how are they ensuring diverse talent pool for future opportunities? And I'll add just a little bit more within the data science area, the support for women in some of these roles or in some of these goals.
I can go really quickly so that we can give time to other people.
Yes.
So Facebook actually improving diversity and inclusion is a top initiative here. So
Okay.
we work, the work we do touches almost every part of the business, from recruiting to performance management to training, and also top of mind awareness building. So in recruiting in particular, we deploy a diverse slate approach for all senior positions, as well as selective organizations like data science, where women have to be part of the panel, so that we can get rid of the systemic and unconscious bias introduced at the beginning of the talent acquisition. I also want to say that we have women in data groups where we organize a lot of panel conversations and we also have a campaign, internal campaign, marketing campaign to bring diversity as well as inclusivity kind of topics to top of minds of folks. We have women to watch, like feature awards and stuff like that within Women in Data Science, a Facebook initiative. So we also track and publish progress internally. It is a top initiative internally. There are many things going on. I'm super excited to be part of it.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Christine and go ahead.
Yeah, do you want me to jump in real fast? So all the firms I've worked at, diversity is key to success, and it comes in all different shapes and sizes. Diversity really is good for customers, employees, and the business. And at IKEA, like the other firms, they strive to have a diverse workplace and an inclusive environment. So it's been a wonderful place to work. Like Facebook, as Dee mentioned, we have diversity and inclusion recruiting, committees, events. So we really are striving to include all, and especially women in addition, but all different shapes and sizes, so to speak. So it's absolutely an inclusive workplace from everyone, and all of the other places I've worked as well follow suit. So very similar in that way. Thank you for asking.
Okay, great. Mark, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, no, I would say it's very similar. I mean, of course, we are at a much smaller scale than Didi and Christine, where you are. So initiatives at the same level. But one thing which I found unique at Poshmark was, which is why I think that Poshmark has always been very diverse, and part of it is that at the top it starts. Like our E-team itself has 4 women. It's a small team of like 9 people, and 4 of them are women. And I think that just trickles down from there because there's a representation. So it's I would say it's just it's in the Poshmark's fine grain that it just goes like that because we all talk about it, we discuss it. I mean, we have many programs, but not like those programs just naturally and organically came just because I think I'm a very big believer on like if the representation starts at the top, lots of things just get taken care of automatically.
Very well stated. Well, I want to thank all of you for joining us today on behalf of the WIDS 2021. I just have a few more announcements to make, and before we close the session, big thank you to the 3 of you. One key point that I've taken away from all of you is stretching ourselves, whether it's a new project, new technology, or new role. And by stretching ourselves, we grow the most, we gain confidence, and we can take on more risks. So I really appreciate you sharing those personal stories around that. Please tune in tomorrow at noon, same time, same station, for opening remarks from Linda Zhao, the Professor of Statistics and Academic Director of the Dual Master's Degree in Statistics and the Wharton School. Presentations will be by Sandra Gonzalez-Alin. She's a PhD, Associate Professor of Communication at the Annenberg School for Communication. She'll be speaking about the influence of automated accounts in the spread of information on social media. That is sure to be very interesting. Followed by Daniela Bassett. She is the J. Peter Skirknich Professor of Bioengineering, Electrical and Systems Engineering at Penn Engineering, and she'll be speaking about how humans build models of the world. Another interesting talk for tomorrow. So to continue to improve our programming, we encourage you to complete our 2-minute survey that will be right after the close of this session. Please give us your feedback, especially on this panel. And as a reminder, join us in gather.town for networking and more information. The panelists will be there. And it's open every day, an hour before the talk, so 11 to 12 Eastern, as well as 1 to 1:30 Eastern. Thank you for attending. We look forward to seeing you at gather.town or tomorrow. All right, have a great day, everyone. Bye.